All right, everyone, this is it. Welcome to the Tonto's Demise Week 17 recap. The year in review. The power of purple. It has finally happened. It is finally getting that possum off your back, if you will. Congratulations, first of all. Congratulations, Brian Treesize, Possum Magic, taking down Tonto Bowl 22. Finally getting one. Congratulations to you. Might as well just top this off first. I know that it's been a long time coming for Treesize. Some people said you should be happy for him and not for the things you should be. You're disappointed. Things that could have happened for myself or whatever. Blah 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 blah. But no, I guess I get that. But people just give me shit all the time because it's just me. But that's not the case really. I couldn't be happier for Treesize to finally get one as one of the original members of Tonto's Demise. Myself, Treesize, Detling, Brian. He was the only one who's been there from day one to not win a championship. With a little asterisk next to Disco, of course, because he was there, I do believe, from day one as well. But he took a couple years off there. So he hasn't been there all 22. But Possum Magic has been here since day one. Has gotten close many times, just couldn't quite get there. And, excuse me, this year, finally your year. So, yeah, congratulations. Couldn't be happier for you to finally get that, get that monkey off your back. And, yeah, what is there to say? I'm sure it feels good. Know how it feels to go both either way, victory and defeat. Not in the Tonto Bowl, of course, but yeah, really just you get into the playoffs. Again, anything can happen, and that's just the way it worked out this year. But I will say that as happy as I was to see Treesize and Possum Magic said finally get a Tonto Bowl, I got a little bit of room to be upset because really, I think it was mostly Kevin, but fact of the matter is, you can say that I only wanted for myself and not happy for others in their victories. That's not true. But on the other hand, you understand that I could be a little bit upset at least because I came one touchdown away, one touchdown from winning the Triple Crown and winning the back-to-back championships. You realize that's an $800 swing. $800. I missed out by one touchdown. Sure, it would be nice. I would love to see the back-to-back pot grow. For who knows for how long. But just to have come that close and know that I could have gotten there, but I didn't. I will also say that I think, even though the back-to-back championship is hard to do, if I could have gotten the Triple Crown, I joked about retiring, being able to retire from the league because what else is there left to achieve? But let's be honest. Excuse me. The Triple Crown. Is there anything more difficult, I think, to do? It wouldn't surprise me if this is the closest that anyone ever gets. Considering you have to win the knockout pool, which is by far the most random thing in the league. I mean, to win that is just pure dumb luck because it only takes one off week and you're done. That's it. Yeah, you can have, I mean, if you have a dominant year, again, it just takes one bad week. And as the weeks go on, you have less and less competition, so your score has to be better and better and better. And it's really, that's just the biggest luck thing that there is. That I'll be the first to admit how fortunate and lucky I was with the way that matchups went this year to win the back-to-back or the knockout pool, which I think I've never won it before, maybe one time, but it doesn't ring a bell if I did before or not. But it's very difficult to do, is the point that I'm trying to say. And to win, to get the first place in the regular season, to get to the championship, I mean, that's not easy to do. Back-to-back hasn't been done in 15 years for an easy reason, because it's hard to do. But yeah, it would have been nice, I said, not only to take into consideration that, I lost out on a potential $800, which would have been nice, got to admit. So a little bit disappointed about that, but life goes on. We turn the page. But yeah, I honestly, to be able to say that you won the Triple Crown of Tonto's Demise, again, I said it wouldn't surprise me if it never happens, or this is as close as anybody ever gets to it. Not to toot my own horn or anything, but when you actually have a chance at it, it's hard to do. It's really hard to do, and usually just to win the knockout pool is, again, very random. Anybody, not even playoff teams, half the time, guys who aren't even in the playoffs end up winning the knockout pool just because it's so random. But anyway, I digress. Let's talk about Tonto Bowl 22. And unfortunately, the good news for Possum Magic, this one was never, ever close. Ed Lager, you spent all your energy. You blew your load, I guess one could say. Working on, you put everything into taking out the wizard, and you left nothing left over for the Tonto Bowl. The final score was Possum Magic 182.6 to Ed Lager 113.5. I was deeply concerned that Ed Lager was going to be the first person in history, probably, to score under 100 in the Tonto Bowl. Thankfully for him, Malik Neighbors showed up. The guy you traded for Chris Godwin. We can talk a little bit about that at the end of this, but yeah. What should we say? For Possum Magic, said cruise into victory here. Lamar goes for 41, Justin Jefferson 17, Amon-Ra 20, Scary Terry only 1.5, Rico Dowdle 13, Derrick Henry 27.5, Tucker Kraft 7.3, Pittman shows up when it matters the most, goes for 26, Sanders, the Miami kicker, goes for 10 or 11, and then your Vikings defense, you had both your guys, both your defenses playing in this matchup. You picked the winner, Minnesota and Green Bay. Minnesota gets the victory. Yahoo says 9. Looks like you got a 9-point bump there to about 18 for your defense there. But yeah, Possum Magic, this one was never really in question because Ed Lager's Jets stack Rodgers to Devontae. Aaron Rodgers, I think he got benched near the end of that game. In the Tonto Bowl, Aaron Rodgers, who saved you last week again. Nothing you could have done, I believe, with your quarterback situation there, with Cousins getting benched, Russell Wilson being trash. Just looking at your bench here, Ed, really nothing you could have done differently when you lost by 70. Yeah, it's just, again, I was really, I'm thankful that you did not, some of your guys showed up just enough to get, it would have been supremely embarrassing, I have to say, to make it to the Tonto Bowl and score under 100. Aaron Rodgers, 11.5. Devontae Adams, 9.5. Keenan, 7.5. Zay Flowers goes for 5. Saquon goes for 22. This one hurts me. It hurts me to say. After the week before. Stevenson and Hunter Henry, your Patriots combo. Stevenson, 0.1. Hunter Henry, 0. Malik Neighbors, again, he goes for 39 points. Ricard, the Vikings kicker, goes for about 9. And the Denver Broncos defense actually lost to Cincinnati. Ed, I believe 10 ended up being the correct score from the Denver defense because we didn't have to adjust you really much at all. So Ricard must have gotten you 8.5 then instead of 8. And your defense, the extra score was 10. Yeah, this one was pretty much smooth sailing for Possum Magic. Never really a doubt. Ed, your first Tonto Bowl. I don't know if your team just got the shakes, got scared in the spotlight, couldn't handle the pressure of the spotlight, the Tonto Bowl there. And yeah, Malik Neighbors basically saved you from a sub 100 Tonto Bowl, which is something, if that had happened, look at me, you looking at me? I would not let you forget that. I was going to say live it down, but I would not let you forget that happened. But yeah. Anyway, to sum it up, what we already know, you guys have known for a while, put off this review for the little while. Just kind of wanted to process the season in general. It was a busy time anyway, beginning of the year, end of December, beginning of January. Just wanted to assess things. Said busy time anyway. So, what can we talk about? What is there to talk about here going forward other than congratulating Possum Magic for an excellent season? Really, everybody for an excellent season. This season, talked about it before in previous recaps. It was a roller coaster from week 1. Injuries, just teams got ravaged by injuries early on. Streaks this year were really quite prevalent, a lot, which is weird because it's another thing that it's so difficult to do. I still think that myself, having a 10-game winning streak was just silly, pure dumb luck that happened. Changing how it affects the standings there. We know Disco had a little losing streak there early on in the season, but then he turned things around. Gags obviously started with a win and then went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 strung up 7 losses in a row. Went from 1-0 to 1-7, and then kind of turned things around. Josh went on a losing streak at the end of the season. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 losses in a row. So he was what? 1-3, 2, 3, 4, 5-3, and then just went 5-3, ended up 5-9. Just the streaks that people went on. It's much. I mean, all the win loss win win loss loss win loss. Like, those are much more prevalent when you look at everybody's schedules here. Any streak of more than like 4 or 5, even if it's win or lose, is tough to do because the league is so competitive. Everybody almost always has good teams. Even if you're not winning, your team is usually capable, fully capable, of knocking off anybody at any time, as we saw a couple times this year, especially towards the end of the season from the Dub C Hooligans. Even though he kind of gave up on his team pretty early on. But yeah, he made some trades, things that didn't look too good. But towards the end of the season, he popped off 3 wins in the last 5 weeks there. Still finished in last place, I believe. But so you started 1, 2, 3, 0-4, then you were 2-4, then 2-7. But yeah, you ended the season, back and forth. Perhaps affected. So you beat. Let's see, who did you? Maybe had an outside chance of Josh not making the playoffs there, but said Possum didn't have. You lost to Possum. You beat Detling, but he still got in. Gags, you beat Ed, but he still got in. But you showed up. You knocked some people off during the end of the season here. So let's see if Possum Magic, he started 1, 2, 3, 4, 6-1, pretty good. But yeah, the point is, had some streaks this year, but once again, just like the knockout pool, those things are hard to do. Harder than you think they are sometimes. Especially winning streaks, obviously. Losing streaks, sometimes things just don't work out, for lack of a better description of how you want them to. Players get hurt, guys just don't perform to expectations. That's just how it goes sometimes. I know, obviously, 2 years ago, when I was 0-7, basically all my picks just didn't work that year. It happens sometimes. Sometimes years are weird. That I had something. Just thinking about this and what we could talk about in the recap here, but sometimes years are just strange. We're going into the season. Sometimes you have a pretty good idea of what's going to happen for the most part, who should perform well, but sometimes it's just things just go completely haywire and nothing is really as you expected. So, what else can we talk about? What are we going to do for next season? So, we'll have some keepers, people going on, people making trades. Detling got in despite trading away, said Amon-Ra and Dowdle. They helped Possum Magic. Just taking a look at his schedule here down the line. Let's see. When was week 14? What week was the Lions bye? Was it? Wasn't 12. Was it 14? I know their bye. I'm sorry, their bye was early on. That's right. So you had Amon-Ra in there. So looking at week 12, Possum Magic still didn't have Amon-Ra yet. So week 13, then he's got Amon-Ra. And not really sure that it affect? I mean, obviously we can look back now and assess those things in hindsight. Perhaps without Amon-Ra, Possum Magic maybe loses in week 14 against Brian without Dowdle and Amon-Ra, because so Dowdle scored 18, Amon-Ra scored only 10. But I mean, Possum Magic only won that week by like 3 points. Brian hadn't. I think he had like a really outside chance to make the playoffs there. But yeah, even if Possum Magic had lost that week against Brian, it wouldn't have changed things because, if I remember correctly, Zach and Ed both lost in week 14. Let's take a look here if we can. Ed, week 14, yeah, you lost. And Zach, I'm pretty sure you also lost in, yeah, I played you, you lost. So both of you guys had that chance in week 14 to take the bye week away from Possum, but neither one of you was able to do it. And so really the point is, looking at all this stuff, that trade didn't really change things much. So Possum would have still gotten the bye week, even if he had lost week 14. He crushed Zach in week 16 here by like 100 points. Amon-Ra and Dowdle combined for 27 of those 27 of his 220. So you still would have won very comfortably this matchup, most likely. Against Zach, you would have made the Tonto Bowl. So really, and so again, it's easy to sit here now and say what happened versus how it changed things potentially at the time, which I think is what creates most of the controversy. I think Detling would have been in a better position if he had not made that trade. I think that's we're feeding a fed horse, as Brian would say. We're all very aware, I think, that Detling would have been in a better position, that he still made the playoffs. Just goes to show that anything can anything can happen. But I'm pretty sure when Possum Magic was on a bye in week 15, those guys that Detling traded away would have come in pretty handy. Again, in his matchup against Zach, because he only lost by 15 points. I think Amon-Ra had like one of the best games of his career. Detling, you would still, I believe, I would have beaten you pretty handily in the second round of the playoffs there. But the point is, hey, you got lucky that you made the playoffs. But you could have gotten, without that trade, you would have at least gotten a little bit further. I guess confirming your, again, the self-fulfilling prophecy that your team just didn't have it this year. But I mean, you don't know that. You really don't until all the cards are on the table and the dust settles, really. But yeah, Possum Magic did what he had to do. Let's see. I mean, some of you guys you made the trades. I know people. It was kind of funny watching Brian complain about the trade deadline. I guess you guys still think it's too late. Like Thanksgiving, 2 weeks gives you 2 weeks of regular season time, and he's like, "Well, I only made that. He's like, I didn't want to make that trade of Malik Neighbors, but I could, so I did. Like I don't really. If you're against, why are you making that trade? If you're so against making these trades, but you went and did it. Like, well, I did it because I could. Like, um, but then again, I think those things don't always turn out the way you think they're going to. I mean, just looking at it, if you have a problem with trades like that and things like that, don't just. I mean, you don't have to do them. Um, Especially when you're trade. I mean, when you're trading for guys who are currently injured, um, there's no guarantee that they're going to come back and be the same. I think it's such a risky play. Especially, I mean, trading one of the best players on your team for what amounts to what a possible keeper. I think we can all just admit that Godwin is not going to be a keeper on your team when you got Nico and you've got Bowers. Um, Possible trade bait maybe as a for an off-season trade of Godwin because he was off to such a great start here. But he would be a fourth round pick next year as a keeper coming off a broken ankle. I mean, I really just don't think anyone in the league is going to be that eager to draft somebody coming off an injury like that. Um, and trade draft capital to acquire him when it said in the fourth round. Brian's probably not going to keep him. Let's just be honest. So yeah, if somebody really wants Godwin next year, they could probably draft him in the fourth round, if not later, without losing any draft capital. You can just go get him if you really want him. But yeah, these best guys who were Rashee Rice too. I mean, it's a risk. It's all. I mean, you know that you know that when you make the trade, these guys coming off knee injuries, ankle injuries. It's not going to be an easy. It's not always an easy road for these guys to come back from that stuff. I mean, yeah, he's good keeper value for Detling, but just looking at your roster as guys you may potentially keep next year. To be honest, you don't really have a lot that looks nice in terms of value on your roster here. I mean, Goff turned out good. You got him pretty late. You traded for Adunze to see what happens. So Laporta, I believe, was a keeper. And Kincaid was one of Tree's keepers. Both those guys were just huge disappointments this year. So yeah, I mean, you've got Drake May back there, but I think Rashee Rice probably going to be a keeper. Dowdle I would be. I mean, if you still had Rico Dowdle, almost no Dowdle in my mind that he would be one of your keepers. Let's look at Possum Magic and see what his potential keepers might be for next year. Because what were your keepers this year, Possum? Rashee Rice was obviously one of them who you got rid of, and Rice and Kincaid. Yeah, you traded both of them to Detling here. So just looking at your final roster, not really sure. I mean, kudos to you. You went for it. Which I 100% agree. If you have a chance to go in, you're going into the playoffs, and you feel like you have a pretty strong chance to win the Tonto Bowl, you play for this year. You don't think about what could happen next year. That's the way I've played it, definitely in the past. Um, Kind of putting not worried. I understand other guys worry about keepers who are not in the playoff race, or if they're kind of, you know, like Detling floating around there, um, in and out of the playoff race there, and kind of being with a kind of pessimistic attitude, starting to look towards the next season. Like, I understand that stuff, and that's just part of the nature of the keeper league. Um, but trading for guys who are injured this year to come back next year, I think this year has proven that that's not an easy thing to do quite often. Uh, Look at guys, some people like CMC. Um, Especially, I mean, just you never know what's going to happen. Look at Tree Slice's team here. Jonathan Brooks tore his ACL in college last year. You held on to him all year. He came back. Even though he's got to be like, what, 21, 22 years old, comes back after a year off and re-tears the same ACL. Really didn't do much of anything. Um, to expect all these guys to produce what they were doing a year earlier when they were a year younger without the injuries that they suffered, it's a roll of the dice. To be honest with you, looking at Tree Sice's potential keepers, and again, I really, maybe other than maybe the Vikings defense, where did you draft the Vikings defense? I'm pretty sure you drafted them. Possum Magic, or did you pick them up somewhere? No, you drafted the Colts and the Packers. Did anybody draft the Minnesota? Somebody had to. Did anybody draft the Minnesota defense? If they did, it would have been kind of later on, probably in the draft. I'm not sure. I'm just looking through here real quick. Minnesota, were they undrafted? Did you pick them up like after the draft? Trying to think what would be the fastest way to look at this. Transactions, all of them. Possum Magic. Yeah, when did you get the Vikings defense? Okay, August 28th. So basically, after the draft, you dropped the Colts defense and picked up Minnesota. Ended up with them all year long. So, so they were undrafted. Would be a pretty safe bet that that's going to be one of your keepers next year, because that would be a 15th round defense, unless what's his name gets a head coaching job. Flores, guy who we should mention should be the Steelers defensive coordinator. But other than that, might be Rico Dowdle. Possum Magic. Just looking at your draft here. Scary Terry would be a 3rd round pick next year. Not bad, considering he was probably a top 5 receiver this year. So yeah, you've got a couple options, not many. Maybe Dowdle. When did Detling draft Dowdle? Kind of early, round 8. So Dowdle would be around 7, but I don't know. I would be shocked if the Cowboys don't do something about their running back position in the offseason here. So, point is, Tree Sice, just looking at your final roster, yes, it's a championship roster, but you traded some pieces away you traded some future pieces for some now pieces, and it ended up working, getting you that Tonto championship. But it leaves you very thin at keeper options, where even was Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson was a fifth rounder, so he'd be a fourth rounder. I mean, he's not in a league with our scoring system. He isn't as great as everybody likes to talk about him being. Um, he's more likely to get you about a 40-point game than like a 60 or 70. His highest score all year was 60. He had two 60s, but anywhere he's in like 35 to 45 range, which is good, but not, as we saw, like Josh Allen, guys like Allen, Goff, Burrow, putting up 80, 90 points this year. It's basically single-handedly winning weeks by themselves. Let's just take a look at the draft in general. Because I think we talked about it a little bit earlier in the year. I guess this would be a good time as ever to like take a look at the draft and see like what were the best picks from each round that weren't keepers. And I think we talked about it a little bit before. I mentioned that honestly, the second half of our draft this year and free agents, there were no like big splashes. I mean, there were a handful of guys. We'll probably get into it here as we're looking down. Ended up emerging, but there weren't. Usually, there's like at least a couple people who end up getting picked up off of waivers, who are very important, become very important to the teams down the line. But here, let's just take a look at the draft results or round one. What we think was the best pick in round one? It's got to be probably Ed getting Saquon. I mean, Ed getting Saquon at pick 8. Jim getting Gibbs, who, obviously here in week 18, even though it didn't matter, he scored like 4 touchdowns, had a huge game. But it's probably got to be, and obviously, the elephant in the room is Kevin drafting Jamar Chase there at 6. I do believe he did win the wide receiver triple crown. He had the most receptions, most receiving yards, and most touchdowns receiving touchdowns in the NFL this year. So you drafted the triple crown winner and you traded him away. But probably goes to Saquon here. Jefferson did have a good year. Tyreek at number, obviously McCaffrey and Tyreek, huge busts. Bijan was solid. Jonathan Taylor, for the most part, was A.J. Brown was hurt a lot. CeeDee Lamb suffered from Prescott getting hurt. And obviously, Travis Etienne just fell off the face of the earth. So probably Saquon. Then we got round 2. What do we think is the best pick here? Taking a look towards the end. It's got to be probably Derrick Henry. Towards the end of the second round there. For Possum Magic. The second place probably goes to Justin for picking Josh Allen. Neighbors might have been a little bit early to pick him, because that obviously means he would be a first round keeper next year. That would be the cost. Depending on, now Ed is the owner of Malik Neighbors, so if he gets a late first round pick next year, pretty good chance that he ends up keeping Neighbors there, because I think he ended up being a top 5 wide receiver for the season. If not, he was definitely a top 10. I think these last 2 weeks of the season, really pushed up those guys' numbers here. Especially, week 17, when most people have quit paying attention, and Week 18. Anybody who has a champion who's still playing fantasy in Week 18 is in a stupid league. You're dumb. Just gonna say it. So yeah, round 2 probably Derrick Henry at the 10th pick. Round 3, what do we got? Probably Josh Jacobs here near the end of round 3. Solid production all year long from him. Kamara was good till he got hurt. Here at the end of the season, Gags traded him away. So honorable mention probably goes to Kamara and James Cook. Pretty solid production throughout most of the year. Kelsey didn't really do too much. Pittman hit or miss. Evans was solid when he was healthy. He wasn't healthy all year. Waddle, DK had down years. DJ Moore, Stevenson, really hit or miss. Mark Andrews, really hit or miss. T. Higgins, good when he was healthy, but he wasn't healthy all year long. Round 4. So we said round 3 was Josh Jacobs. Round 4. Non-keepers. What do we got? Probably Terry McLaurin, because I think he ended up being a top 5. He might have dropped out of the top 5 with his 1.5 performance in the Tonto Bowl there. Probably some people who were close to him overtook him there. But yeah, he was top 5 at least till the very end of the season. So he was probably the best pick of round 10, or he was pick 10 of round 4. But not to toot my own horn, but Joe Burrow, I believe, was the overall number 1 player in all of fantasy for the league this year. I believe he was definitely the number 1 quarterback in terms of points there. Even though round 4 is a little early to go quarterback, that's certainly debatable in our league. We had a year where I forget what year it was, but didn't quarterbacks went like 1, 2, 3, like Manning, Breeze, and Rodgers, I think went, or I don't know if it was Tom Brady, probably not Tom Brady. I think it was Peyton Manning, Drew Brees, maybe it was either Brady or Rodgers, but they all went like with the first 3 picks in the draft. So, yeah, it was a stellar season. Basically, I got exactly what I hoped for when I took Burrow there. Round 5, what do we got? Pretty ugly, honestly, round 5. Lamar Jackson, obviously, was Possum's QB1 most of the year. Godwin was really good till he got hurt. So he was probably, even though we just talked about, kind of dissed him for a little while there, Godwin actually might end up being overall the best pick of round 5 for Ed there, Godwin. If he doesn't get hurt, it changes things, obviously. James Conner, hit or miss. But then we got, who do we got? Pickens, we got Amari, Aaron Jones, David Montgomery. Good pick, David Montgomery, till he gets hurt. Zamir White, Evan Engram, Deontay Johnson, Jaden Reed, Jake Ferguson. Blah. So yeah, probably Godwin. Round 6, what do we got? Bunch of defenses off the board here. Cortland Sutton, probably. Best value in this round, because most of these defenses did not perform. Baltimore wasn't as good as expected, but they did perform. Dallas and San Fran and Cleveland defenses all just really didn't live up to expectations this year. So yeah, we got Mostert, Worthy, Najee in this round, Javonte Williams, D-Hop, Jordan Addison, probably Cortland Sutton. An honorable mention goes to Jordan Addison for round 6. All right, round 7. What do we got here? Probably Ladd McConkey. I don't know. We got some good ones here. We got in the end of round 7. We got all in order. We got McConkey, Brian Thomas, Keon Coleman, and JSN. Probably gonna go JSN because he was a top 5 receiver going into the last week of the season, our season at least, I believe. But Brian Thomas had a huge playoff, fantasy wise, a fantasy playoff time. But it took him a while to just like these are all McConkey, Thomas, and Keon. Keon was hurt quite a bit, so maybe not so much. But McConkey and Thomas kind of started off a little slow, but that's to be expected, I think, with rookie wide receivers. They kind of start out. You make these investments in these guys, but you have to roll the dice, knowing that it's probably probably not gonna come out of the gate and just be superstars. It doesn't really, rarely happens. It takes these guys a little bit of time to ramp up their reps and their how many snaps are on the field for and their production. You have to survive those downtimes while they kind of ramp things up. Some Biscuits and he hit McConkey. Those are good. Disco traded away Brian Thomas. Probably a mistake. I mean, Dub C had Kittle, who I think he had Kittle in this round, who I believe was probably, if not close, maybe Bowers overtook him at the end here. But at least, throughout most of the season, Kittle was the tight end one overall. I'm pretty sure, so that's pretty good value there for this season. We're gonna go with Kittle, I think, because you got the overall tight end one, basically in round 7 there. And our honorable mention going to JSN, Brian Thomas, and Ladd McConkey, all 3 of those guys. Wouldn't be surprised if they are keepers next year. Round 8, what do we got? Oh, round 8 is ugly. Ugly. Dowdle, I guess. Tony Pollard is hit or miss. But yeah, Brian Bang Bang had some good weeks. Shakir had some good weeks, but nothing really. What do we got? Eagles defense. They started off slow. What do we got? We got Pollard. We got Zeke. Jonathan Brooks. You know how that went. Mike Williams. Jerome Ford. Zach Moss. Christian Watson. Jets defense. There's nothing jumps out here in round 8. So we're probably going to go with Rico Dowdle. Round 8, pick 9. Honorable mention, probably Bang Bang there. Round 9, let's see. So we're excluding keepers here. So probably J.K. Dobbins. Chuba Hubbard, round 9. Solid running back all year long on a team that sucks. J.K. Dobbins actually did pretty well till he was out for a little bit with an injury. Spears, Chubb, Josh Palmer. So we've got keepers. Jameson Williams actually hit a couple good games, but we definitely going Chuba Hubbard here in round 9. Honorable mention going to J.K. Dobbins. But again, outside of keepers, we're already in rounds 7, 8, and 9, and it's getting hard to find more than 1 or 2 good picks or guys who panned out in these rounds. Chiefs defense here in round 9, should mention them too. Solid all year long for Biscuits. Really carried their defense carrying them more than their offense, if we're going to be perfectly honest. Helped Biscuits quite a bit, but Hubbard's still got to be the best pick in that round. Round 10, we got some keepers. This one's easy. Brock Bowers. Steelers defense was solid all year long. Then everything else is just kind of not even worth, really not much worth mentioning. Vidal, Benson, Goddard, Cousins, McLaughlin, Algier, Caleb Williams, Jalen Polk. Round 11, what do we got? We got some keepers, probably Jared Goff. Looking at Jordan Love right underneath him there. Jared Goff probably. Yeah, we're going to go with Jared Goff in round 11. Got some keepers. Thielen, it didn't really, I mean, towards the end of the year, came around. Jacoby Myers had a lot of huge potential there, but wasn't quite able to live up to that potential for Disco and the Raiders once they got rid of Devontae Adams. Just not much to like here. Gabe Davis did nothing. Schultz didn't do much. Tyler Lockett and Freiermuth had some flashes there for us. But yeah, it's got to be Jared Goff. Round 12. Let's see. It's pretty easy. Got to be Bucky Irving. And so Bucky Irving for Darkwing Jet here early in round 12. Honorable mention going to Jaden Daniels. Turned out to be a pretty good pick there. Probably going to be Gag's keeper next year. Nothing else really stands out here. Njoku. Once Watson was out of the picture, Njoku was putting up actually pretty solid numbers there. He should be mentioned, but it took a while to see that production. You would have liked it all year long. Shaheed had some big games, but he's really boomer bust, and then he got hurt. Dubs had some good games, and all these guys are really nothing much to say. Round 13. Round 13. I don't even know who to pick here. I guess Charbonnet near the end of round 13. He had some big weeks whenever Ken Walker was out, but obviously that's not something you can predict on draft day. Walker missing as much time as he did. I don't know. There's really not much else to even pick from. Buffalo defense did pretty well, quite a bit. Had that good playoff schedule there. Hawkinson had some pretty decent weeks there once he came back from injury, but that was a really risky pick and to hold on to him all year long until he came back. He had a pretty bad knee injury there. Glad to see him come back and be productive. But it's probably really Charbonnet. I mean, what else do we got? Butker, Stafford, Purdy, Saints defense. Curtis Samuel, did he even exist this year? Brandon Cooks, did he even exist this year? So yeah, I'm going with Charbonnet. Round 14. What do we got? Again, it's gross. No, probably Judy. Honestly, probably Jerry Jeudy. Again, a benefactor of Deshaun Watson getting hurt. Jameis Winston coming in, and he goes off and has some big games here. Mooney had some good games with Cousins there, and that's really not much else. Trevor Lawrence had a down year, obviously. Now we're looking at guys like Tyler Conklin, Aaron Rodgers, Elijah Mitchell, Jahan Dotson, Xavier Legette, Kendre Miller, Dolphins defense. Josh Downs had some big games, but not crazy. So honestly, probably got to go really Jerry Jeudy, I guess. It's getting hard to pick them here. Round 15. A lot of keepers in this round. Probably Tank Bigsby ended up being the most influential non-keeper pick in this round. Even though he didn't do a whole lot quite often. He took over for ETN, but the Jaguars were just a hot mess this year. Didn't really do too much. And so there were a lot of keepers in this round. So really we're looking at Ty Chandler, Bears defense, Isaiah Likely, had a couple weeks so he was good, but for the most part, not a whole lot. And then Michael Wilson. So yeah, we're going to go Tank Bigsby. Round 16. It's gross, guys. It's gross. I Detroit defense, I guess. Till they started to get picked off by injuries as the season went on. Um, but yeah, Fairbairn maybe was a really solid kicker, to be honest. Quite a bit this year. I don't want to pick a kicker as the best pick of this round, but we're looking at like Brendan Rice, Marshawn Lloyd, Taysom Hill till he got hurt. Yeah, he's always, who knows what he is gonna do. He always has some good weeks. You, but you just never know when those good weeks are going to be. A lot of times he ends up being on your bench when he has those blow up weeks. Houston defense, Colts defense, Tucker Kraft, Damian Pierce didn't do anything, Cole Kmet didn't do anything. So Bengals defense. Ray Davis had a week or two, but probably got to go with the Detroit defense here. Round 7. I don't even know who honorable mention would be. Round 17. That's pretty easy. I think it's got to be Bo Nix. Even though Geno Smith ended up being Josh's quarterback most of the time for most of the year. You know what? We're going to go with Geno Smith for Josh. Said you got your starting quarterback in the 17th round. But Bo Nix looks like he is going to be the real deal for the Denver Broncos there. Maybe not the most exciting fantasy prospect, but he's been putting up pretty solid numbers. So yeah, he's definitely going to be good. Will he be top 5 fantasy for it all? Maybe really, you guys know this. It all comes down to those completions, which can ramp up your score. He's going to be good. Bo Nix is going to be a solid fantasy starter, I think, for the foreseeable future there. But got to go with Geno just because of the value and the usefulness that Josh got out of him for most of the year as his QB1. But then, especially for keeper potential, we got Darkwing Jet there with Bo Nix at the end of round 17. And then round 18 is a complete dumpster fire of picks. Probably just by default, Jalen McMillan. Once Godwin is gone, he took him a little while, but these last few weeks of the season, McMillan was catching some touchdowns, doing all right there. But otherwise, Drake May, yeah. But for the most part, this round 18 is a complete dumpster fire, forgettable round of picks there. So yeah, by default, we're going Jalen McMillan. But yeah, like we said, your teams were basically made in the first couple rounds of the draft this year. Just looking at, for the most part, let's look at the draft by team instead of just by round here. For the most part, said your team was either made or broken in probably the first 6 or 7 rounds. Looks like Josh didn't make the playoffs. McCaffrey, London, Kelsey, Swift, Pickens, Addison, Garrett Wilson there with your keeper. Gags didn't make the playoffs. Tyreek, Diggs, Kamara, Pitts, Connor, D-Hop, Tua. Tree Slice, obviously. Justin Jefferson, Derrick Henry, Pittman, Scary Terry, Lamar, and Javonte with Rice and Kincaid as his keepers. So there, Jefferson, Henry, McLaurin, Lamar, playoff caliber there. For Detling, Amon-Ra, Cooper Kupp, James Cook, Christian Kirk, Amari Cooper. San Fran defense and Dak Prescott. For you made the court. Said you did make the playoffs there. For Zach, Bijan, Debo, Mike Evans, Tank Dell, Aaron Jones, and Cleveland defense, and Singletary, they kind of trailed off there, but J.K. Dobbins made up for that. And you had McBride as a keeper there. Dub C, Chase, Hurts, Waddle, Ayuk, Montgomery, Mostert, and Kittle. We could add your next two picks for Eagles defense and Chuba Hubbard, which would have been solid plays if you had kept the Eagles defense all year long. And obviously Jamar Chase all year long. We know Ayuk got hurt, but yeah, basically the point is the foundation is to most of our teams, which is this usually doesn't happen very often. Since so few people emerged from the lower rounds and stuff this year. For Brian, Taylor, Neighbors, DK, Ridley, Zamir White, Sutton, and Jalen Warren didn't make the playoffs there. Ed, Saquon, Devontae, Stevenson, Keenan Allen, Chris Godwin, Olav, and Eckler. Obviously made the playoffs there. Biscuits, who just missed the playoffs. Gibbs, Mahomes, DJ, Devontae, Evan Engram, Najee. Then we got McConkey. His next picks said McConkey, Bang Bang, and the Chiefs defense definitely helped him there. But everything else kind of Disco, A.J. Brown, Marvin Harrison, Josh Jacobs, Breece Hall, Deontay, Dallas, and Brian Thomas as his first 7 picks. Said a lot of those guys didn't finish the season on Disco's team there. But he said he had Ashan, traded away Charbonnet. But yeah, your team you made the playoffs, but got knocked out. But your team was mostly through trading there. But Darkwing Jet just missed the playoffs as well. C.D. Lamb, Josh Allen, Mark Andrews, Joe Mixon. I don't know how I missed him. Talking through the draft there in round 4. When he wasn't hurt, he had some big weeks. He trailed. The whole Texans team trailed off at the end of the year. But yeah, Mixon was a stud for quite a bit of time there. Jaden Reed, Xavier Worthy, Keon Coleman. Bucky Irving down there for Justin. But things kind of went south for you after Mixon. And finally, the Wizard goes ETN, Pacheco, Higgins, Burrow, Ferguson, Baltimore, and JSN with the first 7 picks. Obviously, ETN sucked. Pacheco turned into Chase. JSN came through. Baltimore was solid. Ferguson ended up being like just going back and forth with Ferguson and Freiermuth there. Not much production from the tight end position, but really not too much down the line here other than said Jaden Daniels, and who I never really ended up needing, and Jerry Jeudy, but it was mostly too late here. So yeah, late round picks who really stood out. Not a whole lot this year. Said keep guys who weren't keepers. Said maybe Bucky Irving probably. I can't remember if they guys in the draft. Did you do or not in the draft in the podcast? Did they do any kind of like pick of a pick of the year? I don't know if they. I don't think they did. But let's just take a look. Who was the number? What this is gonna take a little bit of thinking. For waste some time here. What was? Because I didn't really think about this till just basically right this second. What was the best pick of the entire draft? Best pick of the entire draft. Oh boy. looking at the rounds here. In terms of just value, this year, not looking so much as like, I mean, we're taking into consideration this year's results, but also you have to factor in future possibilities with these guys. And again, once you get into the lower rounds, not much really stands out at all. Let's see. Other than guys who were keepers, I think from rounds 10 and beyond, I would have to say Brock Bowers and Bucky Irving are going to be 2 of the top 5 best picks of the year, I would say. In terms of production this year and potential value going forward, I wouldn't say either one was the pick of the year, but I think they were definitely 2 of the, I would say they're 2 of the top 5 picks. Yeah, I know. Dead time. Looking through this. So we got. I would put those 2 guys in the top 5. I mean, I gotta say, I think in terms of what, mostly factoring in what they did for you this year. If we're gonna make a top 5, it's gonna be Bucky Irving, Brock Bowers, Joe Burrow, Derrick Henry, and Saquon. I think we got the probably it's gonna be Saquon. Pick 8 overall. He'll probably be either the number 1 or number 2 pick next year. Just in terms of overall value that these guys brought to your teams, obviously they can't be keepers next year, but they helped. I mean, Ed Lager made it to the Tonto Bowl. Derrick Henry possibly made it to the Tonto Bowl with him. He ended of round 2 there. Again, probably not. I hate picking my own guys, but I think Burrow, being the QB1 overall, ended up hugely influential on the outcome of my season. I think they're going to be in that order. Saquon in the order they were drafted. I'm going to go Saquon, Derrick Henry, Joe Burrow, Brock Bowers, and Bucky Irving. Top 5 best picks of the season, best picks of the year. All right. What else is there to talk about? I think that's really, we've gone on way long enough. If past holds true, most of you guys have probably fallen asleep long before, excuse me, probably about 45 minutes ago. But yeah, it's kind of fun to look back and see on the season that was, reflect on it, things that happened. We all know what happened, but all the little things that had to happen to get us to where we ended up. I think what Disco was talking about, how lucky I was last year to have that one play by Gus Edwards, um, get Kevin the victory and get him to the Tonto Bowl, giving me a matchup that I was winnable. Otherwise, I think Justin would have kicked my ass in the Tonto Bowl last year. But I I admit just as much as anybody else how much just plain dumb luck is a factor in in all of this. Um, you put yourself in the best possible position and hope for the best. Much like poker, you put yourself in the best possible position, and then the cards fall however they may. Sometimes you win, and sometimes you lose. Whew. My throat's getting sore from all this talking. All right. What else? Is there anything else we could talk about from this past season that we need? Anything that needs addressed? I know when I was talking about quarterbacks there. I know you guys talked about wanting to maybe cut back to like half points for quarterbacks, like completions, taking away completion points, or going like half PPR. I understand. On one hand, I understand that you don't. I mean, but that's the way the league has been from day one. We all know how it is. Plus, my argument against it would be, number one, I like it this way, but number two, if we slashed the scoring like that drastically, no one's ever going to beat Jimmy Huber's single week score of 275. I want to see that beaten. I want to see it happen. If we slash the scores like you guys want to, it's never going to happen. He's going to hold that record forever. We'd be fairly confident, because all sorts of things have to fall perfectly into place for you to have that happen. Even if it does happen now, it's going to get. I said a couple people came close in past, not just this year, but in past years. Even if that record does fall to 275, you're going to get a little asterisk next to your name there, because Jimmy Huber did it when we still did not count all points for everyone. This was back when I had to go through and subtract rushing stats for the wide receivers. I had to subtract receiving stats for your running backs, and only your flexes got all their stats. So yeah, Jimmy Huber did it before all of that. So anybody who does it gets when he did it when it was way harder to do. So just the fact that record still stands attests to how difficult it is to do what he did. So that's what I think about it. I honestly like things pretty much as they are. I like the trade deadline where it is. I think it's one of the funnest resources that we have in the league. I think to take it away so early, I could see moving it back maybe 1 week. Not really, not much. I think people just don't like the fact that you have guys who are trading making trades, thinking about the next season. And as much as that seems to ruffle some feathers at the time, it doesn't usually end up being hugely influential in the way things pan out. Said Possum Magic. Said Detling still made Detling, as much as we had problems we had with that, Detling still makes the playoffs. I think Possum Magic still gets to where he does without that trade. There weren't a lot of things this year. You guys talked about the Jamar Chase trade. I think I've already thought about. You think I haven't thought about this stuff before already? Of course I have. If I had not had If I had been stuck with Pacheco, that Jamar Chase trade never happens. I'm pretty sure, just like I going through my matchups and who I would have had. Obviously, it would have changed things quite a bit. Unpredictable things I can't even like try to go back and say, oh, this is what I would have done, that would have done that, because who knows what you would have done differently um, in the moment and not looking back on it. But I think I still would have been a playoff team. Don't know that I don't think I would have had a bye week. Because I mean, I did not factor in how much that would have changed Kevin Bean's schedule and performance if he had kept Jamar Chase. Because who knows, maybe he trades Jamar Chase to somebody else. It just you have no idea. We'll never. You'd have to travel into the multiverse to figure out what could have happened with all that stuff. But I think I would have still been a playoff team based on the numbers and how things would have shaken out. I mean, when T was healthy, he was pretty good. When Puka finally came back, he was good. Tyrone Tracy definitely helped me out quite a bit. Rashad was solid, not great, but solid most of the year. JSN emerged and helped me out. Shakir would have been I mean, I probably would have been using Jerry Jeudy, but honestly, Burrow was a huge factor. Even if I didn't have Jamar Chase, just Joe Burrow single-handedly was probably helping me win some matchups there throughout the course of the season. So I don't think I win the Tonto Bowl this year, but I do believe if that trade had never happened, my team would have still been a playoff team. But again, we'll never know exactly how things could have shaken out. But I did my best. I wanted to get that. When you get the chance to win the back-to-back pot, go for it. Possum Magic, go for it. But know that you got 11 guys who are going to be fighting to take it away from you and not let you get it. You're going to have the target on your back, and all of us are going to be coming for taking you down. That's going to be everyone's goal next year. So yeah, it's a lot of fun. I can tell you. Trying to fight for that back-to-back pot. But yeah, I tried, gave it the best I could. One touchdown short. It's gonna, as you can probably guess, that's gonna haunt me for a long time. All right. That's pretty much. I've talked way more than I probably should have. Just giving you, maybe revealing too much information on thought processes here. But we'll wrap this. I think we're at almost an hour and 20 minutes here. We should wrap this up. Congratulations, Possum Magic, to you. Finally winning that Tonto Bowl. You will hoist the trophy. You'll get to write your name on the side there with the Sharpie. You'll get to fuck that hole in the bottom there. Oh man, why don't I have the trophy here right now with me? What a waste! All right, guys, I'm gonna have to delete this video. I'm gonna stop it right now. I gotta do this all over again, and get the trophy in the background here. Just kidding. Fuck it. I'm not doing all that over again. Kudos to said Possum Magic, Ed Logger. Great season to you. You made it to the Tonto Bowl. Fell short, but only one person out of 12 ends the year happy. Said one person is happy. 11 people are disappointed. Some more so than others. Zach made it a good year. All you guys who made the playoffs. Disco. Detling there. Even though you got knocked out in the first round. Just making the playoffs. And it's, again, roll of the dice. Really, anything can happen. Um, I want to mention this too while I'm looking here real quick here. You guys, it was briefly mentioned in the podcast last week, leading up to the Tonto Bowl. Like Disco and Yinzer Jags, you guys had a fifth place game where Yahoo says you won. Disco won by like 0.05, I should say. Just in case you aren't aware, consolation games that don't really matter, like those fifth place games or like the consolation playoffs here, I do go through and look at those, and if the winner is the winner, I don't do anything. But if a matchup is close enough that perhaps like your defensive scores change the outcome of who won, I will go in there and change that. If you look at, well, let's see, the consolation bracket here, I think in the first consolation round, the matchup of Josh versus Brian was actually very close. I think Josh actually might have had the victory according to Yahoo, but Brian's defense, I think, put him over the top and actually won. He actually won the matchup. So I went in and made that adjustment just so Yahoo would have the actual winner. But everything else, like if, for the most part, I'll go in and look. If the matchups are close, I'll go in and look to see if the winner is the correct winner. And as long as it is, I just let it go. But and in the case of like Brian and Josh there, it had Josh winning that matchup when Brian actually would have won it. So I fixed that for you. Really, the only thing it does affect is and I don't know how many people actually pay attention to this, but like your Yahoo ratings and levels, what position you finish in. And it just makes it as accurate as possible. Maybe the scores aren't right, but when the matchups don't matter, it doesn't really matter either. As far as I'm concerned, as long as the winners are correct. So yeah, just to clarify, I do look at all those matchups and just make sure that the winner is the correct team for posterity there on Yahoo. So it helps you. If you actually take into consideration or put any value into like your Yahoo rating there. But yeah, maybe most of you don't even know that that's a thing. But anyway, I think that's it. Is there anything else that we could talk about or we need to talk about? No, just it was a great season. As always, happy to have gone through it. All of the ups and downs, it made it exciting. What was I thinking about before? Oh, when I was mentioning about Disco saying how lucky I was last year that like Gus Edwards had that play, and that's basically what got Kevin into the Tonto Bowl and gave me a matchup that I could win. Getting lucky there. Yeah, I do understand how lucky that was, but at the same time, those are the matchups. That's what makes it exciting. Those are the matchups that we remember, not the ones, when it's a point here, not when it's like 50, 60 point blowouts, when it's down to the wire, close matchups, influential, important matchups. Those are the ones that we remember, that stand out in our minds. And I will admit, just as much as anybody else, it's just dumb luck for the most part. We don't control anything that happens. It makes it exciting. The luck part makes it exciting. And like you said, just the way that fell, and we remember that. We look back. That's probably what we think of when we think of 2023, is that matchup and all the things that came from that. And none of Gus Edwards doesn't give a shit. Gus Edwards doesn't know. Nobody from Baltimore cares. They're just out there playing football, and just the way the matchups went and things. It's all just the way it happens to fall in the line. But again, that's what makes it so exciting. I still think about a couple of years ago, when Detling and I had that playoff matchup where he had Phillip Rivers and I had Mike Williams, and like Mike Williams had all three of Phillip Rivers's touchdown passes, and Detling ended up beating me like 215 to 212, something like that, and Austin Hooper scored me 0. And I had like 4 running backs I could have chosen from. And the only guy who didn't win the matchup for me was the one guy that I played. I remember that stuff. We remember that stuff. Those close matchups where little things that go either way. Again, dumb luck, but sure makes it fucking exciting, doesn't it? That's what we live for in fantasy football, is the shit like that. And again, while I'm on that, Brian, I did say that a playoff matchup between me and Detling is what everybody wants to see. It is a Tonto Bowl between me and Detling. Has never happened. But let's be honest, it's what the people want. They want to see someday a Craig Detling Tonto Bowl. That's what the people want. I hope it happens someday. I can't wait. It's never happened, but it would be, even though he's kind of settled down and away from the podcast. Could you just, I wouldn't do it, but could you imagine the shit talking that Detling would do going into that matchup? And if he lost, or if he won, I don't even know what would happen. But yeah, that's the Tonto Bowl the people want. Someday, God willing, fantasy God willing, we will give it to them. All right, guys, that's plenty. That's probably too much. Thanks for listening, watching, or whatever it is you do. But yeah, what other way to top off the season than going gangbusters here with a 90-minute podcast? I'm going to have to go suck a cough drop here because my throat is getting sore. Yeah. Again, another great year. Thanks to each and every one of you for all that you do and contribute to the league. All of you excellent players. You bring it. You make the draft You make the draft difficult. Every single year, you guys bring it. We snipe each other. Everybody, honestly, for the most part, unless bad luck falls upon you, everybody puts together a good team year in and year out. I thank you all for that. This is the best league. Just appreciate every single one of you, and hope you all don't know if we mentioned this. Hope you guys all had a fantastic Christmas season, good New Year, and obviously here being today being January 6th, wishing, and we won't see you again pretty much until August. So wish everyone happiness and health for the rest of the year. Look forward to everybody. Stay happy, stay healthy, do what you can, enjoy yourselves, and have a good time. Love your life, and we will see you in August. Wish all of you guys again. Basically, nothing but the best to each and every one of you. So, thanks again. Kevin, your dogs took a shit right on Alf again, right? Especially poor Bob Dylan, because he's sniffing the shit that's right there under his nose. If you could clean that up, but yeah, no more ranting. It's going to be an exciting off-season. Hopefully, we have at least one off-season trade, guys. The off-season trading off-season trading season is open now that the Tonto Bowl is over. However, it's probably a little bit too soon to be doing things like that. And people can get hurt. Things can go awry. But yeah, it's going to be fun to watch, and I'm already excited for next year. Thanks, guys. Thank you again, and we will see you next year. to discuss the events of Tonto's Demise, Season 23. All right, guys. Thank you, and bye-bye.